Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of RoccoBot Predicts. If you're new to this program, basically RoccoBot is the fantasy football analytics engine that I built. These are strict computer rankings. I don't always agree with them myself, so if you see somebody not on the top 10 list that you think should be there, believe me, I see it too, okay? What I use these for personally is I use these for daily fantasy budget plays just to know when a star is worth the spend or not, and also kind of the bottom line of my flex. If you're looking for a specific position set, go ahead and look in the timestamp below. It will take you right there. I'm going to go through the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defense and special teams. And once again, I go through the top 10 for each player. Before we get rolling, as I always say, please give us 2 seconds of your time for 2 clicks, a like, and a subscribe. We have a couple of production features locked that we would like to unlock to make these videos more interactive. We need your help to do that, so a little bit of effort for you goes a long way for us. We would appreciate it. But let's go ahead and start with RoccoBot's top 10 quarterbacks for Week 12 of the fantasy football season. In order, we have Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, Jeff Driscoll, that's right, Jeff Driscoll, Jacoby Brissett, Lamar Jackson, Nick Foles back on this list, Baker Mayfield, Drew Brees. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is on bye week, so that's why he's missing there. But a couple of notes here before we move forward. First of all, Jeff Driscoll's on here primarily, 2 reasons. One is he's playing Washington, and that helps. The second is he can run, so rushing yards generally help a quarterback. You don't see on this list Josh Allen, for example. Now, I would feel very comfortable playing Josh Allen this week, even against a tough Denver Broncos, or I guess a tougher than advertised Denver Broncos defense because of those rushing yards. You see Lamar Jackson on the list, no surprise there. Nick Foles is interesting because Jacksonville last week when he came back, I know that maybe the game situation dictated this, but they passed a lot more than they were with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. At the very beginning of the season when Nick Foles was playing and starting, I guess it was just that 1 week, they were passing quite a bit. John DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator for Jacksonville, likes to do a pass-first offense. It's kind of what got him fired, honestly, from Minnesota. So I do like Nick Foles, both this week and moving forward, just to get the volume. So I like a lot of these guys. As always with Jameis Winston, it's buyer beware. I mean, he's boom or bust for sure. He could get you 4 touchdowns. He could get you 4 interceptions. So just weigh his possibility, his ability to throw touchdowns against how much the penalty is for interceptions in your league. If it's a big penalty, like a -3 or something like that, maybe you want to sit him. If it's a small penalty, maybe you want to play him. Let's move it on to defense and special teams. In order, we have the Patriots versus the Dallas Cowboys, which is interesting that they're rated so high considering the Dallas offense in a lot of statistical categories are ranked highly as well. RoccoBot likes the New England Patriots. I don't know if I'm as comfortable with ranking them number 1, although certainly if they were on my team, based on the turnovers, based on the sacks, I would certainly feel comfortable playing them even against a tough offense. The San Francisco 49ers against Green Bay. Green Bay coming off the bye week gives me a little bit of trepidation there, but I do like San Francisco's defense every week just because, again, they can pass the rusher, they can force turnovers. You got Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. I think that's a slam dunk. Baltimore versus the Rams. I think that will be a very good play. Carolina over New Orleans. I shouldn't say Carolina over New Orleans, but Carolina, RoccoBot is projecting a lot of turnovers. I don't necessarily agree with this one personally. Tennessee, the Giants against Chicago, I think that's a decent play, although the Giants' defense has been like Swiss cheese lately. Then you have Chicago, the other side of that same matchup, the Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Tennessee Titans. Although the Titans are coming off a bye, they're a little bit of a different team with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Don't know if I love that one as much myself. Next, we have wide receivers in order: Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. So 2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game, or in these projections. Numbers 2 and 3, those are very, very strong projections. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, DJ Chark. Again, we talked about Nick Foles throwing the ball more. DeAndre Hopkins on Thursday Night Football. Allen Robinson, Marvin Jones, and Odell Beckham. That's right. I think Odell graces the end zone with his appearance this week. I think he gets back in versus the Miami Dolphins, and I think Cleveland really continues to move forward, so that's why I like Baker Mayfield back in the quarterback section. Moving on to tight ends now. We have Atlanta. I have Austin Hooper, and for San Francisco, I have George Kittle. I have them both listed. Obviously, they might not play. You got to check the injury report. I would say it's more likely than not that George Kittle sits. If George Kittle sits, Although I like Ross Dwelly, I don't necessarily think he stretches the field as much as Kittle did. He only had 2 receptions, I believe, last week. They just both happened to be touchdowns. 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can't count on that every week. So although I like Kittle and I wanted to still include him in these projections, you got to check the inactives report. Go to NFL.com/inactives. I believe San Francisco Green Bay got flexed into Sunday Night Football. So if you're nervous, just find another tight end. There's some others possibly even on this list that you can grab. Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, their mainstays in the top 10. Ryan Griffin's an interesting one. I talked about him earlier this season. He's a great guy to grab off the waivers now that Chris Herndon is on the IR for the Jets. Sam Darnold likes to play that ball control, short passing offense. I think he's a great one to have for the rest of the season. Darren Waller, Jacob Hollister, and Gerald Everett. Jacob Hollister, if you're not familiar with, I've been talking about him for weeks personally because, once Will Dissly went down, he's basically the next guy up. Russell Wilson's already looking for him in the goal line. I believe he has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games before the bye week. He's a good one to own as well. He could potentially be out there. He actually probably still is. I think he's only owned in like 14% of the leagues. So if you're desperate for tight end, that's a nice one. For running backs, actually, it says top 10 there, but I actually like to include the top 20 running backs, so I'll read these in order. Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, who's questionable at this point, Aaron Jones, Tevin Coleman, Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, is also questionable, Jonathan Williams replacing Marlon Mack. I like him. Leonard Fournette, I'm a little nervous that Jacksonville goes away from Leonard Fournette and goes way too Nick Foles heavy, but we'll have to see how that plays out. If you have him on your roster, I say start him this week and just roll the dice there. Josh Jacobs, in what is actually surprisingly a strong matchup. The Jets are really good at stopping the run this year. Although Oakland likes to be patient with it, I'm sure Jacobs will be just fine. Numbers 11 through 20 include Seattle's Chris Carson, Mark Ingram, Devonta Freeman, who at this point is questionable. Check him out. If he doesn't go, Brian Hill might be a start, although I started Brian Hill in some daily fantasy last week. Let me say this. The experience is so bad, I will not be doing that again. Matt Breida, Phillip Lindsay, who is also questionable. Todd Gurley against a tough matchup in Baltimore. Derrick Henry, Devin Singletary, James White, and Le'Veon Bell. Let me say this. I think James White this week for New England, I think they will be able to pass the ball a little bit more. It's a very nice matchup against Dallas. I think they're going to work the flats, so I like James White as kind of a lower kind of value guy that could certainly exceed his expectation there, at least his computer projection. Todd Gurley, it seemed like last week the Rams finally committed to him. He got 25 carries. They need to keep doing that. That's how the Rams built their success. I'm not buying the whole Todd Gurley is not who he used to be kind of thing. Remember, he had a bad season the year that Jeff Fisher got fired. He's having a bad season. This guy, he needs volume. If McVay commits to Gurley, Gurley will repay him. That's my opinion. So hopefully we see that this week. I think that Baltimore-LA game is going to be fantastic. But I said that last week with Baltimore and Houston, and it wasn't fantastic. It was just a run around or a run through from Baltimore over Houston. So we'll see how that goes. But there you go. That takes me through the RoccoBot computer projections. Again, I don't always agree. I don't always disagree either. If you disagree or you think somebody should be on the list, comment below, and I'll tell you why the projections. I can, regardless of whether or not I agree with them or agree with you, I can tell you why the projections came in low. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer those. As you can see in the notes below as well, I'm happy to provide these projections for free for anybody. Just tweet at me or send me an email, and I'll get these projections to you. They're completely free. And then I may as well actually move it to the last slide here. Get RoccoBotic. You can see my Twitter. You can see my email. Send me something, and then obviously subscribe to the channel, like and comment on these videos. We would greatly appreciate it. We will catch you soon on another episode of RoccoBot Predicts. Thanks for watching, everyone.